So welcome back. In this tutorial we're going to look at the filter option, a very powerful option in Excel. And we're also going to be using some of the sort features we covered in a previous video. So if you remember from the previous video, this is a table of stats on baseball pitchers. And the first thing I'm going to do is put it back in its original order. So this is the way the data came in from the ESPN website. Now, in order to use filter, we would select it from here, and you'll notice that each of the labels in the first row gets a drop-down menu. Now, depending on how you select it, it's possible that these could show up in a weird spot. And if that happens to you, just shut it off by toggling it off, click it again, click somewhere in the main body of the data, and turn it back on, and you should get this. Let me show you an example of what happens if you're in the wrong spot. So if you were just clicked off somewhere where Excel couldn't figure out what block of data you wanted to deal with and you tried to turn on a filter, you might get an error message. And if you happen to be clicked in something that wasn't recognized as being part of this data block, you could turn on a filter simply for that section. So the key is to be somewhere in your data block. Doesn't matter, I could be way down here. And when I do that, my labels, my heading labels, are going to get drop-down menus. Now within here, you can get a variety of things. One is you might get a display of all the values in that column for you to check on or off. When a table is large and complex, sometimes this doesn't show up. And you're also going to get well, you have your sort features here, and you're also going to get some number filters, and we'll look at all this as we go. So maybe the first thing I'd like to do is I will come in and under games pitched, I see, well, it's as low as 24 and as high as 39. So maybe I just want to see everybody who's pitched 30 games or more. And there you go. Now note the row numbers here on the side, 5, 6, 7, 16, 18. What it's basically done is hidden those extra rows from you. So if you want to get a total, if you're trying to calculate something like this, we would do that in a different way with a formula. The filter is just allowing us to do two things. It's allowing us to look at the data to get a perspective of it. And if we did want to copy the data, let's just say that I do want all the pitchers here who have pitched 30 games or more, I simply could copy that, open up a new sheet, paste it. Now notice it didn't bring my headings in. So let me undo that. And if I select the headings, even though these are not adjacent, it's 1, 5, 6, 7, 16, 18, that doesn't matter. It will bring in just the information. So you can easily select subsets of data to work with. Select all will bring back all my data, and you've got to be careful because you can do this by multiple columns. So I could have come in here and said, please show me everybody who's 28 games or above, and also show me people who have pitched more than 170 innings. And that's great, but I have to remember that I have two filters on here. You can see that the icons here are slightly different. It's got the little mark in the corner. But if I forget this, I can come in here and turn 27 back on. That's great, but I don't have all my data. I still don't have all these people who have pitched 170 or less innings. And I see actually my 170 wasn't even visible before. It was hidden from me because of my previous filter, so that would add at least one person. Okay, the quickest way, you can go through here and you can turn all your filters off when you want to get back to your data, but you can also just close the filter. Sorry, I wasn't clicked in. and reapply the filter. And that's a sure way of making sure you're looking at all your data. If you're copying and deleting and doing other things, you've got to be very aware of that, because otherwise you will upset or destroy your data set. It won't really be very accurate anymore. Okay, let's look at some other options. Those options are contained under the number filters. So if I click here and say equals, I can always say, please show me all the 31 game winners. So I'm in this category and I say anything that equals 31, and there they are. Now I can do select all to clear my filter, but if I want to work with it again, I can just go back into it and you can see that it's here. And I can say 31 or it equals 30. So now I'm selecting by two things. Now you might be saying, well, aren't the check boxes easier? And yes, in this case they would be, but there are times that those filters are very, very useful. Let me clear that filter. Let's come into the player category for a second. And I'm going to go to a text filter here, and I'm going to say that equals, and I'm going to say M, but I'm going to put this asterisk in there. And that asterisk means match any number of characters after it. So essentially what this will do is get me all the people who start with the letter M, because I'm matching all the characters after that. And I could add another criteria. I could say or, come on, begins with N. And there's Noah. Okay. Now there are lots and lots of different ways that you can use this. You have does not equal. So I could just exclude something by saying it does not equal 31 or it does not equal a particular name, etc. Begins with, ends with, contains, does not contain. And let me come here and get into games played again, since that's something we're using frequently. I'm going to say is greater than, let's say anybody who's greater than 27 games. Now, I've got to kind of study this to see if it did what I asked it to do, because things are not ordered very well. So, first thing I'm going to do is remove the filter. I would prefer to do this sort before. So now I'm sorting from lowest to highest. You can see we have 24, 26, and 27 game winners. And now I'll pick, I can go to custom, but I'm going to pick greater than right here. And you can see they've been dropped from the list. Let's see. Is less than 25. And they can't be both greater than 27 and less than 25. So I'm going to change that to or. And you can see now my 24 game pictures came up. So you can use those in combination to get whatever you want. Of course, you can use them by multiple rows also. So I'm going to say innings pitched is, let me pick the top 10. Okay, so these are the top 10 pitchers, or the pitchers with the top 10 innings pitched based on that group that's excluding those middle number of games pitched. Okay, so you get the idea. There's lots of options. You should look in there and play. We go to custom filter. We have Equals, does not equal, is greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, begins with, does not begin with, ends with, does not end with, contains, so it's anywhere in the middle, and does not contain. So those are your options. And with those options and with multiple fields, you should be able to do quite a job on searching the data.